Hello and welcome to another episode of How Are You Holding Up? A mental health podcast by the depressed for the depressed. I'm Lindsey.
And I'm Chris.
And the first question I want to ask is, Chris, how are you holding up?
I'm tired. And I'm doing okay.
How's your week?
It's been long and it's been a little exhausting, but it's been good. Which is a very much a positive. I got to meet some of my a couple of the people who created one of the shows that I loved watching growing up, X-Men the Animated Series. So I got to meet them, and that was really cool. I also had a review at my secret job that went very well, and I'm very happy about that. So, yeah, we also had some holiday parties. All sorts of stuff going on right now.
So many holiday things.
And how are you holding up?
I feel like I'm completely disassociating from the holiday spirit. Like, I keep doing things to try and feel like I am now, okay, it's holidays. Like, I went and looked at lights, and I've been guzzling eggnog. and I've gone to a couple, like, Christmassy sweater things, and I have more stuff coming up, and I will be leaving town to Alaska to visit family for the holidays, but I just can't feel, I don't know what I used to feel. I don't know if I'm missing something. I always watch Scrooge. Maybe I need to watch Scrooge. Put me in I remember what Christmas is all really about.
I need to watch Mickey's Christmas Carol myself.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. You need to.
Because it's literally all of Christmas Carol, but in a half hour, so I don't have to deal with being bored by Dickens's shenanigans after a while.
There's some good ones out there though. But yeah, I don't know. I that stress of like, oh, I have to buy Christmas presents for this person and that person, and then you're like, oh no, I forgot this person got me a gift. Why would they get me a gift? I have no money. And then there's crafty people who just make these fabulous things, who I'm always so jealous of, and they like go around to everybody and make them something little, or they bake a bunch and they make those little bags of yummy treats, which I love, but I'm not that person. Like, I keep imagining that I'm that person.
I know that feeling well, especially on the baking front, where I'm like, every single year, I absolutely could make, like, I don't know, some mint chocolate chip cookies or something, but I never do.
Maybe we should combine forces and make a HAYHU bag.
Oh my god.
And they're all just really sad Christmas cookies.
Sad Christmas. So we can like cut them out in shapes and just like
unhappy Christmas trees.
Exactly.
You cut me down.
Oh no.
So today we're talking about
seasonal affective disorder,
and or known as S.A.D.
The most fitting acronym ever.
Interestingly enough, so sometimes we do research. And this time I did, and it's only since the 1980s that we've even had a term for this, and when people started looking into it. So this is a fairly recent realization on the humanity front.
It absolutely is, and it's something that we've all kind of felt as time goes on. I mean, it's a little less apparent for those of us who live in sunny, beautiful climates that never really see change in weather. Cough, cough, California, cough, cough. So going into this, we kind of really had to do some research, because it's definitely something that's a little more, not just seasonal, it's regional. And it might not be something that affects you in your region, or it might be something that comes, instead of being a weather pattern related thing, it's just it's the holidays. I feel like crap right now. I
think also people who have lost somebody, having to go through Christmases and holidays without that person now, that's also...
It absolutely is. It carries over a lot.
Yeah.
When you've experienced any sort of loss, even if it's just friendship loss, you feel that hole in your heart where there was somebody filling it. So
yeah, that's a good point.
So it's a bit of a difficult thing to go through, to say the least. But we're going to go over it. We're going to go over what the symptoms are. I mean, we pretty much all... If you're listening to this podcast and you have depression, you probably know what these symptoms are already.
But some people don't experience depression except in the seasons. And that's usually what S.A.D is you're pretty mentally and emotionally healthy and balanced until this happens. And, but yeah, it looks really similar to just depression.
Yeah. So it usually has a start date, if anything, is when it starts to get into fall or winter, is when it's usually been known to hit folks. And when it hits them pretty hard, and it'll like sap all the energy you've got, make you feel moody. It's really, it's more of a constant state that comes out of nowhere than it is something that you know all year round.
Which must be kind of scary.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, when you get used to having depression, and I have cyclical depression, so it's like, oh, I can see the signs, and oh, I can see. But if you don't, and it's just how horrifying. And I experience a lot of guilt during the holidays because I feel like I should be happier and more grateful and more spirited. So that's what I deal with, anger and guilt a lot during, and then just generally wanting to be alone.
Yeah.
But not having experienced that much, and then having it only in the during this time of year, it must be really hard.
Yeah, I can imagine. For the longest time, I didn't really have the cyclical depression like you have.
Yeah.
I would have something probably more akin to seasonal affective disorder, except I don't think it was more triggered on by the season of fall or winter, because those are my favorite seasons. Which I think does bring an interesting point, is there is also kind of a seasonal affective disorder that can exist for the other half of the year, the spring and the summer, which is when I would usually feel my worst, because that's when the sun's coming out. I don't like the sun. The sun and I have discussed this multiple times. We are on mutual terms of not existing at the same time as another. So at this point, like, whenever it becomes not cold, whenever it's not windy, whenever there's not things like that going on, it just feels like, I don't know.
Do you think it has to do... Okay, so I've always figured that the winter one makes sense because of sunshine. Like a lot of people, wherever you're living, you don't have a whole lot of sunshine. You get maybe, 3-4 good hours. But I'm wondering if people who really can't do sunshine in the summer, they go inside so much that they also aren't getting enough vitamin D.
It could be it. Like, that's one of the things, as far as like the causes of it.
We're skipping around a little, my bad.
That's no, that's perfect, because I feel like it's more important to talk about the causes before we talk about symptoms.
Yeah.
A lot of things that are discussed in terms of like what causes seasonal affective, your circadian rhythm,
which is
your biological clock. It's basically when you go to sleep, when you wake up. And according to the Mayo Clinic, it's the reduced level of sunlight in fall and winter that may cause that winter onset S.A.D. or S.A.D. The decrease in sunlight may disrupt your body's internal clock and lead to feelings of depression. As somebody who worked graveyard shift for a decade, that is absolutely, completely true. It's something that we talked about before recording.
Yeah, I was going through a really rough time. I had a great job. It was an office job. I was surrounded by people that loved me and I loved, and, connections, all the things that you're supposed to be happy about. And I was not doing well. And so I went to my doctor and she said, well, you have a horrible vitamin D deficiency. And you don't think about it because, you're working even if you do work during the day, you go out, you go from your car to your job or whatever. But she told me I had to go sit out in the sunshine at lunch and also like take vitamin D pills with food. But it's so huge. We're basically these little chemistry sets. It's so huge that we keep ourselves in balance as much as we can, especially if we're easily affected by this.
Yeah, you couldn't be more right, because it's one of the things that I felt I've never been told I have a vitamin D deficiency, but... Have
you ever been tested for
I believe I have, but I don't think it's ever been like something... I don't know. It's weird because I've had blood tests, but never once been told that I had a vitamin D. Maybe something I need to test for specifically. But I was taking vitamin D supplements for a while there, just because I was like, oh,
that's good for you.
That's good for you. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with vitamin D. So
get that D.
Gotta get that D.
So then the next thing is serotonin levels. So a drop in serotonin, brain chemical neurotransmitter that affects mood. So That usually can have a role in SAD. That's also because of reduced sunlight, right?
Yeah,
it triggers.
Most likely, it's reduced sunlight, but serotonin is also just one of the big like pleasure centers of the brain. You're just not getting enough good feels,
right?
And enough sleep. Definitely, it's a combination of all of the above. Like melatonin levels also can be affected in this particular cause. In that. Which is funny because anytime I take melatonin supplements, ever since I worked graveyard for so long, I will sleep for 12 hours.
Ooh,
it is a solid promise to myself that I will knock out and I will stay knocked out and I will wake up feeling like, no, I haven't slept enough. I should sleep another 12 hours.
Ooh.
So I can't do melatonin as a result. It's pretty crazy. So my sleep patterns are absolutely, I think they're just fucked. Like for life at this point. We'll see though.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Let's not do what is it? Those sayings of absolutes. No absolutes.
Yes, a Sith.
Thank you, therapy.
Yeah. Only a Sith deals in absolutes. Thanks, hilariously ironic Jedi. So
they're all just depressed.
Yeah, exactly. So the symptoms of seasonal affective disorder might sound familiar to you if you have any form of depression. You've got, of course, feeling depressed. Huzzah. That sounds pretty obvious. Losing interest in activities you once enjoyed. Having low energy. Problems with sleeping. Changes in your appetite or weight. Sluggish or agitated. Difficulty in concentrating, feeling hopeless, worthless, or guilty, and frequent thoughts of death or suicide.
So I think when we read these kinds of things, we start to, tune out, because it's like, well, I don't have that. Mm-hmm. I'm not that bad. Because a lot of people think that, if you're feeling sluggish or agitated, I mean, that's like, you're really just unable to do anything. And it can be slight. You can just be waking up and feeling like, oh, I didn't sleep very well, I guess. I don't know. And that can be day after day after day. And then you start feeling a little bit, things start kind of ticking you off. And you're like, oh, I can't concentrate. But it's probably because I didn't sleep enough. And then you start to realize, looking back on it, oh, wait, I didn't have any energy. I've been sluggish. I've been agitated. I can't concentrate. I don't really want to be around people, but that makes me feel guilty and worthless. Guess what? You might be a little bit depressed.
It's a very high probability. Really, like... The other thing is when you start feeling all these symptoms, they all kind of add up, and you forget some of them.
Yeah,
you forget when you become unself-aware. That's a fun thing to deal with.
It is. It's like you go into this. Depression totally takes away my ability to stand outside of myself and say, okay, this is going to be a finite period of time, and I've been happy before, and I will be happy again. Like that goes away because I don't have enough serotonin or dopamine or whatever's going on with me. Even if I think of happy memories or times where I was happy, they feel like nothing. They feel gray. There is no happiness, and I can't recall a happy feeling. I can't make myself feel happier, which you forget about when you're not depressed. Because when you're depressed, you're like, wow, everything's not that bad. It's not that dark. Why did I feel that way?
Yeah, why did I write all these horrible things to myself? So it's a weird kind of wall, I feel like, that gets put up when you're recovering from feeling depressed, that you just kind of block out all of those previous feelings and you go, well, I was feeling that way, but I don't want to feel that way anymore, so I'm just going to not. One, wish it worked that way.
I really wish it worked that way.
But two, when you put up that wall, that barricade for yourself of just like, if you're in an upswing, and you just go, nope, I'm denying every negative feeling I can. It's not really denying it. It's just putting it off. It's more of a delay. It's that feeling of...
You're kind of disassociating.
Yeah.
And ignoring it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. No, you're dissociating hardcore.
So here's something that I was just thinking about. What if, how do you tell between, like, I'm just in a bad mood and I'm frustrated versus I'm starting to get depressed? when you're in the holidays, because it is a more stressful period of time. There is more to deal with. You do have to deal with in-laws or maybe family members you don't want to talk to. Or, you know, so how do you know the difference between I'm just in a bad mood for a couple days versus...
I think it's I think it's the length of time that you feel that way.
Okay.
I think when you hit, like, it's not just a couple days. When you hit like a week or 2 weeks or a whole month of feeling that way, it really at that point should be kind of pointed out to a doctor and just going, hey, I'm feeling kind of fucked up and it's been going on for a while now.
Yeah, and I think you're right. And I also think that it has to do with when I can't feel connection to people. Because that can happen in a day. And then I'm like, wow, I'm not connecting to people. Like, this makes me feel absolutely nothing that we're all sitting around a campfire and singing songs and reading my favorite poetry. If I'm not getting anything from it, like, because if you're in a bad mood, you feel grouchy and you feel frustrated, but you also can feel those other ups and downs. When you're depressed, I don't think get the...
It's funny too, because like when I'm in a bad mood, when I'm feeling particularly agitated and I want like the world to just leave me alone, there is always like, I always feel like there is something
that will get you out.
They'll bring me out of it. Yeah. They'll bring me back. Like it'll usually be somebody really reminding me how seriously I'm taking myself. And it's like, I don't need to be taking myself that seriously, or the situation, or anything around me. And so as soon as I realize it, then I'll laugh and I'll be like, okay, I was being a dick. I'm sorry. But when I'm actually in that hardcore depression, it's like, no, there's nothing that's bringing me out. They could be like, you're kind of being a little down right now. Are you all right? And I'll be like, shit, let the mask slip. Whoop! Time to put on that performance face.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
and we all have to put on a face to some degree, like we've talked about, but there's a difference.
No. See our episode on our masks.
I think also, you know, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of HALT. But if you're like in a bad mood or whatever and you're about to talk to your spouse or friend or whatever and you're like, I'm just not doing well, think of HALT. Are you hungry? Are you angry? Are you lonely? Are you tired? Deal with those basic things first.
Oh my God, I'm all for it.
You know, and I was thinking about loneliness. A lot of people don't have someone to have the holidays with. And the holidays are supposed to be about coming together with family and friends. And if you don't have that, if you're in the military and you're on base, or you're, you know, you just,
or you're away at school.
I mean, it's a really hard time. So if you are going through this stuff, guys, we're here for you. You can write into us.
Yep, you can always hit us up. We're always there to listen as much as we can. But it's.
But there are things that you can do if you have seasonal. Yeah. So there's these cool lights. I'm sure some of you have heard of them. If you're in a place. Or if you just have low vitamin D, there's light therapy.
Also known as phototherapy. So this is something you may want to talk to a doctor about first before you go and buy yourself a light box or something. But it's if you're living in an area or you have a lifestyle that prevents you from seeing the sun, or just a personal vendetta against the sun, like me, then a light box is supposed to basically... I don't want to say irradiate you, but give you that same kind of feeling of just like
it has vitamin
sun.
D in it.
Yeah, it's the sun being able to come to you without being quite so sun-like.
Yeah, you can't. I don't think you can get sunburned from it.
No.
I have, like I said, family in Alaska, and I know there are a lot of people who work on the slopes up in the oil fields. It's dark all the time, and they are required, I think, every day to sit for about 20 minutes with a light therapy light. It's just healthy.
It's a little sad that there's not as much research as there should be.
Yeah.
But it has been proven effective specifically for seasonal affective disorder.
Yes.
So it is one of those things that if you want to talk to your doctor, if it's bothering you, and at Amazon, they got a whole bunch of them. We found one for as little as, I think it was like $45.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just a small one, and that's all you need, really. Just, you wake up in the morning, it's dark out, you put the light on, you sit in front of the light.
You read a little.
Yeah,
you know.
it's just a nice way to start the day as far as we have researched. Alternatively...
medications.
Yeah.
I mean, you know... antidepressants always come with their own kind of group of stuff. And if you only have depression during the season, you might want to think about not. But if you can't get through it and it's just too much, then you definitely should talk to a doctor.
Yeah, because the thing with medications, as we've talked about before, they will take weeks to even have effects on you. Yeah. So the season may even pass before it actually does any good.
Or it can, the problem is with taking meds, I have found, is that guinea pig stage of figuring out how it fits with you. So I've been on antidepressants that felt amazing for about 3 weeks, and then I felt nothing. I didn't feel angry, didn't feel sad, didn't feel happy. I was just going through life, and that was, and it never came back. So I had to get rid of those. So just keep that in mind, because medication, they do say it can also make you more depressed.
Yes.
They do say that on antidepressants.
If you have a doctor and you were talking with your doctor and the doctor is prescribing you medicine, make sure you keep talking with your doctor.
Yes, yes.
They need to be there for you as much as anything, so they will be able to help you out if you have a good doctor. If you don't have a good doctor, get a good doctor. Speaking of which, good doctors, talk therapy.
Yeah.
Always a positive. It's never a bad time for talk therapy.
That's a good point. And I think a lot of people have a stigma against I have to sit there and talk about my feelings. There's nothing wrong with me. It's well, just having somebody who is a third party who has literally spent their life researching how to best help get out of patterns might be able to be a good help, and just have someone to talk to.
Mm-hmm. And eventually you will find yourself coming to a point, at least in my experience, where the therapy may feel like it's not doing anything for you.
Yeah.
At which point you may need to discuss that with your therapist, especially. You just need to let them know, hey, I'm not getting a whole lot out of this.
Yeah.
Can we try something different? Or can we move on to different avenues? Or maybe you don't have anything that's bothering you at that time. You can always take a break and then come back later.
Yes, and I've had the experience where I've been going to therapy for a few years, and I didn't feel like there was a whole lot. There were times I didn't feel like I was getting anything, we weren't progressing or anything, but just going for me and having someplace I was supposed to be and talk to a familiar person and laugh and remember some things about that week that I maybe hadn't forgotten, and keeping her up to date so that when you are going through an episode and they've seen you at kind of normal, or it's still worth it, especially if you have a low copay. I'm lucky. I know that it's expensive for some people.
It absolutely can be, but there are avenues out there for less expensive therapy. You can always, if you are going to school, there are therapists usually in the mental health department of a lot of colleges and even some high schools now. They're getting a little more on board with being more progressive in terms of mental health. Again, we can only speak from experience in America. If you were in other countries,
sorry.
there's got to be avenues for you, hopefully, if not online therapy sessions. Those are always out there. They're readily available. You can find a whole bunch of different services. And lastly, this is one of the things that is maybe not discussed as much, but there are alternative ways to deal with this that people, I'm sure, would love to talk about at some point. And, we can't speak for too many of these experiences ourselves until we actually go through and try them, which we are planning on doing with the new year.
Yes.
There are a lot of people who would say things like, doing yoga, meditation, and things like that might help. But there's also people who will say things like acupuncture or float therapy, sensory deprivation tanks. There are so many alternative...
Music therapy.
Music therapy, yeah, exactly. There's a lot out there that may or may not work. We will be testing them.
Yeah. And if you are going through this right now, just remember that oftentimes when you're depressed, it feels like what you're going to have to do, I have to go to this person's house or go to an event. It feels like it's not going to be fun and you're going to have a terrible time. But most times when you go, you actually end up having a better time than you expected. Depression is a liar. Depression will tell you you're not good enough, that people don't want to see you, that you're a burden while you're like this, and that's just not true. Most people want to connect with you no matter how crappy you're feeling because they love you and they want to be around you.
And if they don't want to be around you, like, I'm pretty sure they will let you know. Yeah. And those are the people to avoid.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to willingly subject yourself to people who make you feel like shit.
Yeah, don't be harder on yourself because you're like, oh, I'm going through a bad time through the seasons. I'm going to say terrible things to myself like, wow, you can't even get through this. And, you don't want to go shopping. You have a panic attack. Like, God, just get through it. Just everybody else can do it. Why can't you? You have no idea the stress that other people are going through. I walk through Target and I am having a consistent, constant panic attack. My hands are sweaty. My stomach feels sick. I feel dizzy and I just have to get through it. But I smile when I walk past people. Mm-hmm. I say hello. I'll make jokes with people and I feel like I'm dying. Yep. So just remember, be a little kinder to each other during this season because you don't know what other people are going through right now.
We're all going through our own little world of shit half of the time. So it's a nice little reminder that, guys, we're all in the same boat together.
Yeah.
So, one thing that we wanted to mention before we wrap up this episode is that there is an active, I wouldn't say maybe not active, but definitely a community out there that doesn't believe that seasonal affective disorder is a real thing.
Yes. And
to those people, I say, fuck you. No, I really, it's a thing where it's like, when you're told that a thing that you feel or that a thing that you have come to know over the years is when you're told that it doesn't matter or it's not real or doesn't exist, it's it's all in your head, just get over it. You don't need to be doing that.
I think, people who don't experience it, it's easy to poo-poo it or,
Sure.
They're just stressed, But yeah, so the reason why we wanted to be a little bit more, systematic with our research and stuff.
A little more educational this episode as opposed to through our stories, as are usually the case.
And also I think we don't have as many stories for seasonal depression in terms of being in the dark for hours and hours.
Yeah, I have that, but that was year round. That was not seasonal. Yeah. That was just working a night shift. So, I think at this point, ultimately, the best that we can do for you is let you all know we are here.
Yes.
It is going to be okay. And
you're going to get those things and those presents that you have to, and you're going to have. Even if you don't have a great time this holiday season, you're going to get through it. Mm-hmm. And there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Yep. Stick to your treatment plan if you've got one. Take care of yourself. Make sure that you are able to take time away from stressors and things that bother you if you need to.
Throw on your favorite song and dance in your socks in your room.
Yep. Absolutely. If you want to socialize. If you don't want to socialize, don't socialize.
Just take care of yourselves.
Exactly.
Okay, guys.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think that's just kind of the little subtitle of our show. Just take care of yourself. Just be good to yourself.
Well, thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it.
As for us, follow us on the Instagram. Oh, I sound like an 80-year-old. Jesus Christ.
On the Instagram.
On the Instagrams. Follow us on Instagram at HAYHU Podcast. Like our Facebook page. And if you want to send us something directly, go ahead and email mailbag@howareyoholdingup.com. Also, please rate, review on the iTunes store.
Oh, yes, please.
We do love hearing about that, and it helps us out tremendously.
And as always,
don't tell us to just get over it.